Hello and welcome to the And Just Like That After Show here on JLJ Media. I'm your host, James Lott Jr. We're talking episode 4 of the Sex and the City reboot on HBO Max. Airs every Thursday. I want to tell you, spoilers. It's all spoilers. So I'm saying that now. I also why in the description, I say episode 4. Meaning in the title. In the description, I don't say what the episode's about. I just put in spoilers in there too, because I know this is new. And I'm thinking to the end, just like that, in HBO Max Facebook groups. I will post this probably tomorrow. I try to give everybody, when I release it to my public, it's fine. But when I post it in those groups, I usually wait till the next day. At least give by a day, at the very least, to watch it. But please, folks, don't give away stuff right away. I know it's exciting. You just watched it. Maybe you're on the East Coast, you watched it first. But I just feel like you should allow people to actually get a chance to see it. Some people at work, some people are doing other things. I luckily this morning, I actually have today off. So I'm actually able to watch it now versus later. So there's that. We're going to talk about the first thing, the elephant in the room. Might as well get it out there now. Willie Garson, who played Stanford Blatch, died in real life back in September 2021. We saw him for the first 3 episodes, and I could tell in the 3rd episode he didn't look as healthy to me. He seemed a little thin. So we were wondering, everybody was kind of wondering, well, what's going to happen, how they're going to do this, how they're going to handle Stanford Blatch, Carrie's best friend. Well, they handled it today. And they did a nice little quote at the end, and they showed his picture at the end. But I could tell because the scene that happened, where it happened, it seemed like it was a little disjointed for me at first. But I get why they had to do it because they had to kind of probably throw it in. I don't know if it's true or not, but it just felt like that for me a little bit at first. And now I get, because when I was watching, I was going, oh, Stanford writes a note on a yellow little pad. It wasn't a Post-it like in that original series, the famous scene where Berger writes a Post-it. No, but it was on a yellow piece of paper. And he wrote notes, and Stan wrote notes to Carrie saying that he was leaving Tokyo to do this tour, this TikToker. Then Anthony shows up. And that's the thing. And now you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't remember a lot of scenes between like just Anthony and Carrie. I don't know if they've talked. There's some things that have happened, but I just don't remember a lot of scenes with them. So it's always like, to me, it's like, that's really interesting. Like, you don't see Anthony with Miranda. Like there's some characters you just don't see cross mingle as much. That was it. I was like, oh, Carrie. So Anthony went over there, of course. That's when Stanford wants to divorce. So they've written Stanford off as he's on another country on tour, like Samantha on another country. So I thought it was kind of cool. They decided not to. It would have been too jarring because she just lost. Even though in real life this happens all the time, but she just lost her husband. They couldn't do those storylines. Then she was her best friend too. That was just that'd be too much. That'd be too much. And on some level, it keeps Stanford alive. Like literally, he's off somewhere, and he'll probably write her and say things, and they can do stuff with that. But I'm really sad. I like the character of Stanford. I've always liked him. I thought him and Carrie were perfect together as best friends. He was a true upper crust New Yorker to me. It just fit. And Willie Garson was so good in the role. I know he's in other roles and has a claim on things, but I mean, he was good at Stanford. He was good at Stanford, and he will be missed. He will be missed. So thank you for handling that, Sex and the City crew. Okay, so my voice is a little off. I know somebody was complaining the last episode that my voice was low. It's a little off right now. It's the weather and stuff going on, so I'm trying to work that out. So the show also tackles race, not racism, but just like racial equality in friendships. You look around, like you at home, when you look around, are your friends a diverse group of friends? Are they mostly look like you? Are they mostly your culture? That's a good thought. My friendships range. I have friends, so my circle ranges too. I have a lot of different races in my small circle, a lot of different races. It's and I've always been that way. I've always had friends from different backgrounds. I know some folks have been complaining, thinking they're being a little heavy-handed this season in the diversity department. I say no. Here's my thing. The whole storyline with Charlotte and Lisa Wexley, LTW, she calls her. They're two peas in a pod, which shows the sameness that we possess sometimes. So sometimes a lot of times we're the same when it comes to what we want and what we like, which is skin colors, but they're not shying away from the skin color issue. And I think Charlotte would try extra hard, and it would be maybe a little annoying that she's trying so hard to be sensitive and adding a Black friends to her circle, a more diverse circle. That makes sense. Charlotte's all about status. Charlotte's always been about the look of things. That's always been Charlotte. So to me, it's right on character, right on brand. Funny when Deidre, one of the Black girls, dresses her down over a field trip, and then later she goes to her to get her to be more in the circle for this dinner that ended up not happening, and then she takes one for it. It's kind of funny. And that Black actress, I've seen her in something else. It's killing me. I've seen her in something else that's killing me. I don't know what it is. Beautiful. Everybody's beautiful on the show. But the fact that Charlotte and Harry were the only white folks at this all Black party for LTW's husband, Herbert, that's funny. Also, at first, Charlotte steps in it. It says to one Black woman who she thinks is another one, the whole all we look alike kind of thing was cringeworthy and a little funny. But Charlotte, who kind of sets the stern mother-in-law of LTW, kind of quiets her down, was over the art. So we got a glimpse, we got a taste of Charlotte's art history. I'm glad they decided to keep that in mind. There was all these African-American artists too that were on the walls and stuff. It was really beautiful, which I have African-American art all over my walls. See, there's all African-American art. I love my Charles Bibbs and Fennell and Annie Lee. I love my African-American artists. But I thought it was very cool that she got to pull out her old art history stuff, her art stuff. So she was naming the artists and he impressed everybody through art. Very clever. I thought that was a clever thing to do, was to use that, which is like he does. Again, we're showing sameness, either through difference, but also then we show personality. So I thought that was good. And then basically they're two peas in a pod, and they're building a friendship. And they're funny. I think Nicole Ari Parker is great in addition to the show, and she looks fabulous. I love the clothes. I love all the clothes this season on this show. Of course, fabulous. It's all, they all look good, and it's very diverse clothing and styles. Love that. Speaking of Black, we have Miranda getting close to her Black professor, and that's another Nia Wallace, and we show her husband in the beginning, giving her coffee. She had a cute little outfit on too. She was looking in the mirror. It was very ethnic. And so now we're finding more about her and her Miranda, because Sex and the City was always about serious. It's a dramedy. It was comedy and serious. And it starts out with this, which I've been there, restaurant reservations, way to get a table, the whole shebang. And then it's like the host is being just not helpful, whatever. But then when they finally sit down, it becomes serious. We found that Naya's trying to have a baby, but she's torn between wanting one and not wanting one, like real talk. And Miranda was able to kind of talk to her about that, having a career and having a kid. Regrets. The whole thing was really a good conversation. It was just like, it was very honest and real about women. Can they have it all? And she said, I haven't told anybody this, but if I don't have a kid, will I have regrets later? Or will I be fine? My life is pretty good right now. And going through IVF, of course, is a very major thing. I have friends who've gone through it. It's not for the faint at heart. So I mean, I thought it was a very nice conversation and started bonding with you. That thing had nothing to do with race. It was two women talking about reproductive stuff and work. And she asked Miranda, well, then can you have it all? And Miranda says, yes, you can have it all, but it's fucking hard. She used my language, but that to me was like, yep, that's what it is. It is. I work very hard myself, so I understand that. Meanwhile, we have Carrie. So that's the main, those are those storylines. Then you have Carrie. And Carrie kind of goes through a journey because now she's at her old place. And I saw some folks online get upset about that. These were married folks who were like married. Most of them were wives. I saw too. I looked who was answering, and they were saying, "How can you have her keep this other place during their whole marriage?" Every marriage is different. Yeah, I try to think it that way. I feel like Carrie's apartment is very iconic, and I remember they kept it at first because it was an investment, which I keep thinking you just look at it as an investment. I had several homes that I didn't live in full time, but I kept. And she didn't rent it out. They were rich. They didn't rent it out, but they have money, so they had to rent it out. But they could have if they needed to. But I always felt that, that was they had enough money. They were going to keep the house, they keep the apartment. It was to show once that is their apartment. And now serving its purpose, her moving back into the apartment, which makes sense to me. That place was her and Biggs. She doesn't want it anymore. She brings this chick, Seema, in, who's a realtor, whose first entrance is a cigarette being put out. And I didn't put two and two together till late, and later it comes together. I was like, okay, she smokes. It's weird seeing smoking on television. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, so you saw smoking all the time in the 90s. But now it's like no one smokes, but there are folks who do smoke. I was trying to think, do I know anybody who smokes? I think I know one person who smokes. I'm never around them. We live somewhere else. But none of my friends smoke anymore. I don't smoke anymore. Nobody smokes. I don't smoke anymore. I haven't had a cigarette in years. I just keep a pack of cigarettes, my favorite kind, in a drawer. Just a special occasion. I was like, yeah, maybe once in a while I'll do it. But everybody says how bad it is for you, so you just don't have it, right? You just don't, do it. I don't know. It's interesting like smoke. And Seema is a realtor. Again, more diversity. She's fabu. She's sassy. She's brassy. Comes in and everything, but a friendship is brewing. So the Sex and the City group of core of girls is starting to grow. They're showing us that each person is making their things. Same with Sarah Ramirez's character, Che, who I love. I love her character. I know some folks don't like her. I love her character. That whole podcast scene, hilarious. This chick, Chloe, I guess, who runs things in a wheelchair. So we have somebody who's are they saying disabled, I guess, as a disabled actor doing a role. So again, to do more diversity. Because again, for me, these smaller roles, which are important for scenes, though, why not have somebody in a wheelchair? The roles that call somebody has to be a walker who can walk. I mean, it's a scene about the podcast, them needing to up their social medias. It literally could be any race, any gender, anything. I kind of like that kind of casting that they're just like, there's nothing mentioned of that. It's a hilarious scene. I mean, I couldn't stop laughing. But it's normal. It's just normalized. There's nothing that needs to be. It's just that she happens to be in a wheelchair. And I didn't catch it the first time. She was just sitting down. Then I saw this, and then when they flash right back to her, I was like, oh, okay, now I see it. So I like that. Just make it normal. Just say that no attention to be done to it. It's just a normal thing, like real life. You don't make announcements when somebody's in a wheelchair. But like for the role, that's great. Anybody can play that role. That's crazy. So again, for Sarah Jessica Parker, people my age, upping social media games are always an important thing. That's good. And then but Carrie and notices that she goes to her apartment. The Mr. Coffee. Oh my God, I love this. I have one. Actually, I have an old one, like that one they have in Sex and the City. I don't use that. I have another Mr. Coffee. It's newer. I love hearing the coffee percolate. I love the smell of it coming out. I love the pour. I have a Keurig also, but I do love my Mr. Coffee. I use it all the time. So there's that. And it was a big mistake, it all overflowed, but it was kind of funny. But she gets settled into her place. Gets settled. You see that famous closet, everything. But when she met the realtor, they get in the car, you smoke, right? You can probably smell it on her. And she has a cigarette. And it was like a nod to the past, of course. It was so weird seeing Carrie smoke a cigarette. It really was. It was like, wow, that's really interesting to have to do that. Make sure. Also back to Carrie and Seema. They have a section which I didn't catch it till later either. I didn't catch it till the later scene. They're talking about the dating apps. And so Seema's filling her in on which app she's on. I love my puns. Sex and the City's all my puns. And he goes, yeah, I'm on Tinder. The last date I went on, the guy cried so much because so he's too tender. I love a pun. Love a pun. But when Carrie says, I'm so glad, it's good to see you putting yourself back out there, she got weird. And I was like, why is she weird? I didn't really catch that. It was later when, oh yeah, the apartment for the open house, she puts a Peloton back in there in the bathroom, like, oh my goodness, the shoes, all that stuff. So that's cute. But she comes out to the open house, and there's an old picture of Carrie and Big that we've seen before, of course. It was on his nightstand that's broken. The glass is shattered. Carrie has a big meltdown, which makes sense because it was on his side. He touched the glass. He's broken, can't be fixed. He's dead. Goes off on Seema, who's like, I'm not trying to be insensitive. I think you are. Then she brings up, I think you were being sensitive too at the restaurant. She's like, what? Which all of us, sometimes we don't realize it. We're being sensitive. Put myself back out there like, yeah, at least you had a man and lost him. That was real talk, folks. Many of you guys don't know me yet, but I'll tell you, I'm single, not by choice. Well, somebody say it's by choice, but it's not by choice. I would love to be in a relationship. I'm out there trying to date, and it's hard. And most of my friends, close friend circle, they're all in relationships. So it's one of those things where they complain and like, well, it's always like grass is greener, right? They complain and go, well, at least you have somebody every night to go home to. I'm home alone in my bed every single night. That's depressing. But I know my cognitive brain knows that the grass isn't always greener and there's sides to everything, which basically the Miranda comment when she was talking to her law professor, that made sense. Naya, that whole information, there's a little bit about that. But I really was like, yeah, I feel what Seema's thinking is that, wow, at least you had someone to love and lose. Carrie wasn't wrong herself. She lost someone she loves. Now she's back out there. She was trying to get that so she can say, it's there's no right or wrong thing, but it was a very real conversation between two women at two different stages of their lives, yet now both are single and alone for whichever reason. That was not lost on me at all. And the picture breaking was just, again, which Sex and the City does really well. They do metaphor really well. They do pun and metaphor really well. And that's what it is. You know, the picture breaking was on his side. It was his side, just meaning he's gone. And when she put the box of his ashes in the shoe closet, she says, until you let me know where you belong. That was very cool. I think we'll see that later on in the season. That was good. And at the very end, and loving memory, Willie Garson, and they talk about, he has a quote from him, and then they show him later on. So, as she says, and the show is at the end, and just like that, we began a real friendship. So I love the show. I am actually very impressed with it. No, it's not perfect. Sex and the City was never perfect. I don't think it's perfect anyway. It was never perfect. It was never, there's always holes and things here and there. But I'll tell you something. I feel like it's doing an admirable job. And I also feel like that the characters are still the characters. They're not deviating too far off. That their actions to me make sense. I watched the original series 100,000 times. So I feel like they are doing things that actually kind of make sense in there. And some of the stuff may feel forced, but I'd rather them force diversity down I thought than not have it all. If that's the case, I'd rather have that. Please. The screen reflects New York. To me, they have gotten it correct. It reflects New York and where it is, the different generations, everything. So and just like that, it's the end of the after show. I'm James Lott Jr. And of course, I will, on some cases, I'm trying to bring some guests in to talk about it with me. I want to thank HBO Max for putting on this series and supporting our show. I'm not the official after show for them at all, but they've been supporting our show. So thank you, HBO Max. Thanks to all the Facebook groups, anybody who are watching this and who just say the kind words of me doing the show. I'm a fan of Sex and the City. I'm a fan of this alliteration of it. I think it can do still good for women and for people who are of a certain age. It's giving you a glimpse. And now that it is more diverse, it's even better. We're getting different voices happening on here. JLJ Media is my company, and you can subscribe on YouTube, and subscribe. Check out the other episodes. I've one episode is episodes 1 and 2. I did them together because how they were packaged. Then I did an episode about Chris Noth. Then I did episode 3, and now this is 4. Thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas.